So, what's new?
Hey, this is Dawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the Dawg Knight Channel. If you haven't...
Okay, just kidding. Good morning. Oh my goodness. We're starting off the day right. That works. Thank you, Circus Zero. Very kind of you and very generous. Long time no see live, so have some money. Well, thank you, Circus Zero. It's holy shit. I'm swearing already. Hopefully I don't get that yellow thing. It's what a day yesterday, and the conversations in today are really crazy, and so we'll just get into it after the intro. I'll play the intro this time. See you in a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, Dawg Knight.
All right, stop the music. Yeah, no. Yeah, I still got a little bit of cough. And where am I? Damn it. No, I didn't turn my mic off during the intro, but whatever. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as Dawg Knight on the internet. And welcome back to the Dawg Knight Channel. It's Thursday, normally FTG Thursday, which I'm sure there'll be a few of those today, but I don't have any specific ones right at the moment. But it's Thursday, the 7th of January, 2021. Yeah. This is, it's an interesting day. I woke up to some of the typical Twitter stuff from friends and people who are not friends, but it's funny. I sometimes I get into little tiffs with people I respect, but who I rarely agree with, and that happened again this morning. But that's what Twitter's for. It's funny. Someone was talking about me being argumentative on Twitter. Oh Lord, you're being argumentative on Twitter. No shit. Welcome to Twitter, dumbass. Anyway, let's say good morning because we're going to talk about some of the events from yesterday, and we're going to look at headlines mostly because I don't know. I'd love to hear your take on a lot of this shit, and so I'm going to probably spend some time joining you in the chat. But before I do that, how about we say good morning to everybody? Maddie, the news chick, is first in the chat and gets the bell. Good morning, Maddie. And Ronan, if you're in the background, hey to you too. Also, good morning, Tyler F., Jesse Leon, Sapphire Dragon, Mr. Scott. Good morning to you too. Good morning, Select a Boy.
Yeah, boy.
Also, Advocatus Diaboli, the Devil's Advocate. By the way, I forgot to say, Circus Zero, I meant to tell you that
you are the new Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day.
And thank you very much. Also, good morning to Cairo Alexander, Becca Fairley, nice to see you. I will be listening while working. Well, be diligent in your work, of course. Also, good morning to Renee Mayette. Let's see, how am I doing here? I got Tyrai Deos, nice to see you, working for my bread. Well, yep, you got to have that. Good morning, Anna Lynn. Good morning, Katie Did Skate. Also, Circus Zero, did I say hi? I know you gave me the very generous Streamlabs there. And then also Jonas Pedersen's in the house. Nice to see you. Cynical Lindsay, Saint Fugi. Did I skip? There was a new name, but did I accidentally skip that name? Where is that? There was one up here. just above Cairo. Did I skip it? Maybe I didn't yet. All right, let's see if I can find it down here because it was a new name. Oh, there was a name I'd never seen before, and I wanted to make sure I said hello. Let's see what else we got. Our hard disk fails here. Nathan Payton, nice to see you back. Okay, what happened to that? Now I know there was a new name up here, and it was one that let's see. That's weird. Did it disappear? Oh, cool deck. Nice to see you. I'm glad that you're here. If you're new and yuck food tube rump ton. Oh, yes, we have some. Excuse me. I've still got that cough. I'm sorry. We have some form of pig Latin going there. Yuck food tube rump ton. Interesting. That's an interesting phrase. Also, thank you. Good morning, Mad Max, who said, all too often you vote in socialism, but you have to shoot your way out. Ouch. Now that's a spicy take. All right, I have to do not disturb here, and thank you for the thank you so much for the donation through Streamlabs. Yes, we have super chats and Streamlabs on this show now. I'm still over that 1,000 subscription thing that they require. Oh, good morning, City Bishop. I am really pissed off. Oh, I suppose better being pissed off than pissed on, though, right? I can't do anything. I can't do anything but laugh. It's just, maybe it's just me being, I don't know if I'm being cynical. It's surreal how this is all playing out. I just don't get it. And so I guess I don't know, man. So as I'm looking at, so I get on the old Twitter thing here, twitter.com, and where is it? Oh, pro-Trump crowds, Trump march in state houses around the country. 4 White House staffers resign following violence at Capitol. Now I have a strange, I don't know what to think about yesterday. I personally, some people I know support the fact that they went in the Capitol, and they're not the first protest to breach the Capitol building, so to speak. I mean, there was one not even that long ago this summer. I don't know if they're an environmental group or whatever, but they breached the Capitol, and they occupied Nancy Pelosi's office for at least for one full day, 24 hours, might have been 2 days. And then eventually they left, and none of them are arrested. Now, they didn't get in the same way that the protesters yesterday did, breaking windows. And okay, there's something about the breaking of the windows is really strange to me, because if there's videos out there, and where they were yelling, "Oh, those are Antifa! Don't go that way! Don't go that way!" Also a tragedy yesterday. I mean, one of the people. Interesting that the Capitol Police used live rounds on unarmed protesters. I bet you're not going to hear that phrase, though. The woman who died, who was shot by Capitol Police, that's got to be investigated. But clearly, interesting that you're not hearing the word unarmed protester. But here's, in fact, listen to the language, for example, on Twitter. All right, so here's this is talking about 4 White House staffers resigning following violence at the Capitol. Now, thank you, Rod Line, for the $2 to Streamlabs. I'm pretty sad about how everything has gone down from what Holly Ed to how the media will use this as a weapon for years. However, on the bright side, 90% of yesterday's protest was peaceful. Well, yeah, that's why my title of the stream today is mostly peaceful protest. Thank you very much, Rod Line. Yeah, Mostly peaceful protests. Of course, you're not going to hear that. So here's how, but here, listen to the language Twitter uses for this protest versus some of the other protests. And, there's been protests for months and months and months. Violent protests, although they never say violent protests. They always say fiery, but mostly peaceful. Well, listen to the language they use here. Good morning. Oh, by the way, good morning, DI Freighter Watcher. And who else has jumped in? Cindy Rochelle, how you doing, my friend? And I think I got everybody. Attack Alpaca, too. So listen to this language and tell me what you notice. 5 White House officials have handed in their resignations after a pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. According to a Bloomberg report, Deputy National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger resigned on Wednesday afternoon. The First Lady's Chief of Staff, Stephanie Grisham, White House Social Secretary Ricky Nassetta, and Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews all quit on Wednesday as well. In a statement, Matthews said she was deeply disturbed by what I saw today and emphasized the importance of a peaceful transfer of power. Now, as you may know, Trump put out a statement yesterday talking about how there would be a peaceful transfer of power, even though he still disputes the election results because the Congress in the wee hours of the morning eventually allowed the electoral college votes, whatever, to be counted and approved, whatnot. And interesting take by Mike Pence yesterday. And I, as much as I would like it to be otherwise, I think Mike Pence made a good point in a letter he wrote regarding the constitutional duty of the Vice President of the United States in this process. Because the point that he made was that if you read the actual language of his duties, it's very unlikely that the founding fathers, who were really, really concerned about not having kings or not having having a single person with an extraordinary amount of power in our government, would be able to say that the Vice President of the United States would have the sole power as to whether or not to give the thumbs up or thumbs down to the Electoral College vote. I think that probably was a good point. I personally absolutely believe, just based on I watched so many of those state hearings where they were presenting evidence, the affidavits, the data evidence, the probabilities that the election probably was stolen. I agree. And a lot of these cases, for example, one of the representatives yesterday when they were on the floor of the House talking about, well, this many judges and this many blood threw it out based on the merits. No, they didn't. Not on the merits. Good morning, Mike Savage. Blarg. Not on the merits. No. A vast majority of those cases were thrown out on standing. Okay? And in some cases where they actually did listen to some of the evidence, they still said that this is not the right jurisdiction for what you're trying to do, that they can't just throw out, that the states are the ones who determine how they're going to run their elections. Correct, but there was a case, the one that went to the Supreme Court, that they decided not to hear, where the state legislatures were not the ones who determined how the election was going to happen, because in some cases, governors and or unelected judges, or even if they were elected judges, changed the state rules without the legislature changing the state rules. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that just absolutely wasn't done correctly. But in the end, I think Mike Pence is right. I don't think that he actually had that extraordinary power, because if the vice president had that type of extraordinary power, what would stop a vice president of any time counting those votes saying, well, nope, sorry, electoral college is out. We won. Okay. Now, but I gotta tell you, somebody. Good morning, Rittenhouse unit. By the way, I'm gonna tell you, there is. If now this is a big if, because we already know that there's a good chance some of the evidence isn't going to be there when people go to look for it. But constitutionally, the ballots for a federal election, presidential election, Senate election, must be kept for, I think it's 26 months. It's more over 2 years. So maybe it's 24, 20. It might be 30 months. Must be kept so that, and the access to those ballots and information should be available to the public. So somewhere along the line, some outside audit group is supposedly supposed to be able to go through those ballots very meticulously and do their own audit. It's supposed to be available for public review. And I think if, and this is a big if those records are kept, it'll be interesting to see. But look, here's the thing. If they throw out some of the records, then there's not going to be the vote totals are not going to match what they have. So they either keep the records and match the vote totals, or they don't keep the records and they don't match the vote totals. And either way, it looks like fraud, right? Because I know that it was in Pennsylvania where they brought in some of the votes came in apparently from somewhere in New Jersey. They had trucks of votes coming in from New Jersey, and then when they counted them, these were supposedly mail-in ballots that had never had folds in them. When you put votes in an envelope, there's going to be folds in the envelopes or in the ballots, right? But these ballots apparently had no folds in them, and some people saw them and said these circles were filled in absolutely perfectly. Now, if they find those votes, those are obviously machine-generated votes. I've been watching what's his name, People's Pundit. Been watching him a lot, and he's been talking about that. And then he had an expert on there. Well, the expert that testified might have been in Pennsylvania, might have been Georgia, but talking about how they can tell, they can examine ballots and tell you exactly how they're filled in. They can almost tell you if someone was left-handed or right-handed. They can tell how many times the paper is folded by how much the paper breaks down when it's folded. Someone's going to go through these ballots in all these states that are in contention, and they're going to discover something. Now, they're either going to discover that the states were right and they were all perfect and everything's good and Trump actually lost, or they're going to find all those very suspicious ballots. Oh, by the way, I forgot. I was talking about how the language. Notice on Twitter right now when they're talking about this, though. Sorry, I'm going to be all over the place today. I am all over the place. I see a first battle must be won, and that's information. The establishment controls information. Yeah, we got to fix that information control gap, and also I kind of like what the Daily Wire is doing and starting to do some cultural things, like they're going to produce movies and shit like that. We need to get into the culture a little bit more because we're losing. If you're on the right, you're losing the culture war. Just straight up losing the culture war. Good morning, Cultist 4, by the way. So anyway, I was laughing about how Twitter writes this, and I don't know if you caught it, and I didn't look at the chat because I'm really rambling right now. Good morning, Gunfox61 and Jim Beam and Lord Stanhope. But how they describe this: 4 White House officials have handed in the resignation after a pro-Trump mob. I thought mob. That's racist. I thought calling somebody a mob is racist. Oh no, not when it's Trump, because they're supposedly white and white supremacists and all that shit, but that's bullshit. Anyway, who's what is this here? By the way, thank you so much for the people who've been tweeting out the show. Maddie, let's see. Oh my God. Someone, poor baby, maybe your cult should not have ransacked the seat of our democracy. Okay, I'm sorry. I need to respond to somebody on Twitter. My cult? My cult? Oh my God, cult? I'm not going to respond to this. I could spend, like I said, I got into a spat with my friend Sophane on Twitter. I'm not going to talk about it right now. Anyway, so I'm just yesterday has me wound up because I'm not happy that that the Trump people who were in Washington D.C. gave the left a win by being more like how leftists act. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have BLM and I'm not saying all of BLM, but BLM Antifa tactics. I just don't. And I think the way they breached the Capitol building yesterday, all we're doing is giving the media a fucking win. It just gives them more opportunity to propagandize what the right is, and they'll never acknowledge what's happened for the last 9 months from left-wing protests. What, Ryan? Cindy Bishop's not a troll. What are you talking? Who? Ryan? Hello, by the way. Welcome to the show. I don't know if you're new or if you've been here before, but welcome. And but I'm not understanding why Cindy Bishop would be a troll. What happened to all this stuff? The Trump lawyers and Trump promise. I feel betrayed and like they strung us along. You know what? Here's the thing, though. I don't know that they strung us along. Okay, here's what I think. I just think that everyone was afraid to I think just everyone was afraid of what would happen if you change this. Remember, we've been watching things burn all summer. I think they were very loath. And I call it's cowardice. It's cowardice. I think the court should have taken up some of these cases, particularly the case on whether or not legislatures versus judges should have been making changes to election procedure and law, or whether Secretary of State should be making changes to procedure based on the COOF. Okay, they should not have. Or the Supreme Court should have made a ruling on that. It's almost very basic to me, but they didn't, because I think they were fearing having the court taking a partisan take on what they did. Now, I completely disagree with that. They should have taken that case, and they should have heard it. And I think from a constitutional standpoint, at least, I don't know how I read it, and I'm not a constitutional expert, but I think that was a valid case. And also, I think that in all these states where it's crazy. It's a crazy coincidence to me that in all these swing states where Trump was winning, they all paused their counting about the same time in the middle of the night, and they all came back with just boatloads of votes for Joe Biden after that pause. I don't know. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it reeked of a plan. You know what I'm saying? Because every one of the states that are questionable were states where Trump is winning, and then all of a sudden now he's losing. And especially when you look at the fact that Trump won Florida, Trump won Ohio, Trump won all the bellwether counties that are normally would tell you who's going to win the presidency. I mean, in the counties from all the states, all the bellwether counties, like 95 of 97 of the main bellwether counties that usually can tell you who won the presidential election. Trump won all of those. Trump also had more. He had more minority engagement, more women voted for him. I mean, everything. I'm still laughing about the fact that Trump improved in every minority group, or every demographic, I should say. His vote totals improved in every demographic except for white men. I just find that hilarious. In fact, I'm going to give you a preview right now. Let me give you a preview of the picture I'm doing for a video that I'm going to write about that I'm going to probably put out on Inauguration Day. Because here's a good picture. As soon as it opens here. You guys get an exclusive preview of the final graphic from my video that I'm going to put out on, oh shoot, how do I get that up there? Hang on a second. Let's do this. Give me a second. Oops, hang on. You get a preview here. This is going to be the final graphic. Here we go. Is this it? There we go. Here's the final graphic of my video talking about why Joe Biden, how Joe Biden won the election. And I think you'll get a kick out of this. Just a quick look. I'm going to give you like 5 seconds to look, and maybe you'll recognize some of these people. Oh, anyway. And while you're looking at that, thank you, Gunfox61, my friend, with the 556, who says, Marty, yesterday both shocked me and fucking pissed me off. Okay, first off, sure, the supporters should not have gone into the Capitol building, but the use of live rounds being used on unarmed people causing needless death by that cop. Yeah. Okay, I think you probably get a kick out of this. Anyway, now there's one of the white men in particular I think you should find super funny in there, and hopefully you caught it. But anyway. Oh shoot, I'm gonna close that and let's get back into, let me change this back. Did anyone catch it? I gotta tell you, did anyone catch it? All right, yes, I am very angry about that. The fact that okay, so the headline that you would normally get in a case like this, in certain circumstances, would be Capitol Police shoot and kill unarmed protester. Right? That would be the headline you'd think you'd get, right? No. Just in fact, on Twitter, on the let's see if it's even in the if it's even in trending here. Capitol riots trending Thursday. Of course, Twitter obviously curates their trending, but there's nothing. Let's see. A woman killed. Something about her being killed. Breonna Taylor's trending. Oh, say her name. George Floyd's trending. Great. How about the woman who was killed at the Capitol? Nope. Don't see it. Not anywhere. And they have 30 things, a list of 30 trending. But the fact that they used live rounds. Now, have you seen that this year in any of the protests regarding, any of the protests? Have you seen anyone, have you heard of a protester being killed with live rounds in a protest? And because let me give you a hint about the spat that I had this morning and with my friend Sophane. Okay, and I like Sophane. Sophane sometimes we don't agree on a lot of stuff politically, but I think he's a funny dude, and I enjoy watching him and Pat do their show on Sundays, and they don't really talk politics on their show, even though I know Sophane spends his whole time on Twitter doing politics. So he put out this thing, and this is pretty typical what I've seen on Twitter.com. Where he goes, what got those insurrectionists into the Capitol today? What allowed them to not be arrested, gassed, and beaten? White privilege. Oh, and I'm thinking to myself, what? Really? So, and also by the fact that, yes, they were gassed, and Capitol Police shot live rounds at people. 4 people were injured, 1 person dead. So I'm like, so I said that back, and it's like, oh, yep. And so now people are, oh my God. And now someone's put up, white supremacists and militias have infiltrated police across the U.S. FBI warned white supremacists and law enforcement 10 years ago. You know what? That's not the problem. That's not the fucking issue. Okay? The fact that I haven't seen a single person in a protest have live rounds fired. Now I know that in some of the protests that have been where shit's burning all the time, and they're burning up police cars, they're burning businesses, they're trying to breach federal buildings, and in fact, even the White House they attempted during a protest was attempted to be breached. Nobody used live rounds. People did get arrested. People got arrested yesterday, even if it was only 15 people. The idea that someone would say, well, only 15 people got arrested. Well, you said nobody got arrested. Nobody was beaten. Nobody, what did he say? He said, yeah, what allowed them to not be arrested, gassed, and beaten? Well, there were people arrested, there were people gassed, and there were people killed by Capitol Police. So, 1, you're talking out of your ass, and 2, everything you said that didn't happen happened. Now, and then somewhere along the line he gets there. Well, you're part of the problem with political discourse in the 5th estate. Many were arrested. 15, almost none were arrested for invading the house. Well, I got a feeling that some of them probably will be arrested because they dumbasses post themselves in pictures all over social media. So I wouldn't be shocked to see if some of those people got arrested. But, and also he's mad because cops let them look in and took selfies with them. Well, yeah, because a lot of these people are not anti-police and don't attack police. And like, for example, the federal building in Portland where they attack the police. They throw frozen water bottles at them shit. So, yeah, some, and I gotta wonder how exactly, where did these so-called selfies were they taken? Were they taken in places where they weren't breaching the Capitol building? Were they in other areas? I don't know. I don't have any examples of it. But he says the cops let him in and took selfies. This bullshit. Why is zero respect for you and your anti-SJW ilk? Was that's some other shit between him and me. It doesn't really matter. But okay. So he said, what allowed them not to be arrested? And then he goes, well, only 15 are arrested. Well, that's goalpost moving too. Just drives me nuts. Anyway, a couple more people showed up. Good morning, John Smith, Gamer Valine. Let's see, Check Your Logic, Moon-Based Radio, and I think I'm getting caught up here. I think it's that Tall Person. Oh, Tall Person, nice to see you. I haven't seen you around for a while. And Effin' Macy, Effin' Mechie. Is that right? Effin' Mechie. I one of these days I'm gonna learn to say that without having to ask you. Okay. So anyway, so I just thought, I'm not going to argue with Sophie. We're friends. I don't want to get into it with him, but and then he has a lot more followers on Twitter because he spends a lot of time on Twitter, and so a bunch of his followers are chirping at me too. But you know what? I don't care. The language, though, the fact that they call them mobs, I thought calling people mobs was racist. Why even deal with Sophane? Well, Sophane, like I said, we have different political positions, but I don't spend a lot of time listening to his politics. I mean, I follow on Twitter, but for some reason I don't see a lot of his shit anyway. And I enjoy his YouTube channel. And so I can I don't have to, I could, other than the fact that we don't agree on much politically or even sometimes socially, I can still enjoy his work. I can separate that. So outside of this stuff, I like the guy. He's a good guy, and usually he's pretty cordial with me too. Although today he got mad at me because whenever I challenge him on Twitter, he doesn't like that, and whatever. He'll get over it. Whatever. Good morning, the one who, by the way. Great to be here. First time catching one of these live. Oh, well, I didn't realize that. I thought you'd been here before, tall person. I know you've been around. I see you on like on Lords of the Night and stuff. Anyway, also, good morning, TC Ball. Such bullshit. However, you know, if it's that easy to get in the hill, we were scammed. Typical fucking politics. I don't know if it's that easy to get in the here's the thing. Also, so a lot of people are also wondering, well, how is it that these people got into the Capitol building so easy? They let them into this and that. And so they showed me, they'll put up a picture, whenever that picture is around here. Then they'll put up a picture of when there was going to be a huge BLM protest in Washington, D.C., okay, and so people are putting this picture up. Okay, right? Remember this? When now this is, I think, is this Capitol building or the Lincoln Memorial? I can't remember, but so there was going to be a big BLM protest in D.C., and they called the National Guard out to protect whatever this building was, right? Now, let's compare and contrast. Okay? First of all, remember, we talked about it yesterday. The Washington, D.C. mayor, Muriel Bowser, said she was going to have the National Guard come out, right? And she said they were going to have 100 National Guard troops, none with weapons, okay? So they wouldn't escalate things, but that looks like the Lincoln Memorial to me. For the protest yesterday. Now, why, when you know that there's going to be maybe 100,000 or more people in D.C., would you only have 100 National Guard troops to reinforce your police department? Well, you look at what the normal nature of the group that's coming into town is, and you plan accordingly. Now, when this picture on the screen was taken, and they were going to have another BLM protest, right? If you recall, this was not the first Black Lives Matter protest that there was going to be, okay? It was not the first one. There had been many, many Black Lives Matter protests in Washington, D.C., often which turned violent. It was also during a time when after a church was attempted to be burned down, it was set on fire. Now the fire got put out in a reasonable time so that they would not, so it wouldn't be gone, whatever. The church wasn't burnt down. But there was a history of police cars being destroyed, things being set on fire. They tried to set that church right across from the White House on fire. So when you have to plan for something when things are being set on fire all the time, you probably are going to have more troops out there protecting buildings because there was a rash of buildings being set on fire. This particular protest with the MAGA people, the Trump rally, what was the history with them? Well, usually the people at the Trump rallies, they show up, they have their rally, they clean up after themselves, and they go home. So they didn't have any sort of history of those rallies turning violent or people trying to breach the Capitals. Let me do these donations real quick. Thank you, Gunfox61, with another $5.56, who says, should be charged, and the congressman calling them fucking invaders and other names, those fucking cucks can fuck off. Fuck them all. Fuck them senators. Kick them all out. 4 people died. And Ashley Babbitt was shit and killed for nothing. Yeah, she really was. I mean, she was on a door unarmed. Unarmed protester was killed. Thank you, GunFox61. I appreciate that. Also, thank you, tall person with a 21, Blackjack. Blackjack, thank you. First time catching one of your shows live. Have some celebratory money. And ironically, today I am not going to take it anymore day. And also, by the way, tall person.
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, you can tell I'm going to be a rambling mess today, right? It's interesting. As I watch this, though. And here's one. Now, again, I'm telling you how Twitter treats this completely differently than they've taken of any of the other protests. I mean, think about this. It should have been a siege in Portland, right? Portland for almost 120 days. There were 120 days of riots in a row, right? And but no, they never called it the siege in Portland, did they? And in fact, they tried to blame Portland on the federal agents who were there, right? Bullshit. But anyway, and on Twitter, they say, here's their thing, images from insurrection at Capitol show people with link to far-right movements, report New York Times, BuzzFeed, and other fact-checkers. Oh, thank goodness the fact-checkers were there. Yay! Photographs shared online of people who stormed the Capitol suggest ties to far-right movements. Really? I wonder who they're talking about. According to the New York Times. Well, I bet they didn't see the goat dude who's been hanging out at a lot of BLM and Antifa protests. The guy in the goat, or he was wearing the Viking helmet horns thing. Yeah, there's all kinds of pictures of him at all kinds of protests. Anyway, photographs being shared online who stormed the Capitol. Stormed the Capitol. Again, listen to the language they use on this versus other protests you've seen during the summer, where fiery but mostly peaceful. There is no evidence so far. They're creating a narrative already. There is no evidence so far to prove that Antifa activists were part of the mob that entered the building on Wednesday, according to fact checkers from, listen, fact checkers from, I'm sorry. High fight for your rights to Reese Donald. Fact checkers from Snopes, PolitiFact, BuzzFeed News, and other organizations. Yes, the most trusted fact checkers on the planet. Snopes, PolitiFact, and BuzzFeed. Oh my God. There is no evidence so far that Antifa activists stormed the U.S. Capitol, according to multiple fact checkers. Information available in images of the insurrection suggests the participants have links to far-right movements, according to the New York Times. One of the men in the images identified as a frequent MAGA world protester known as Q Shaman, and another is Matthew Heimbach, a well-known white nationalist, according to BuzzFeed News. The narrative is being written on social media and the New York Times. No evidence Antifa was false. Oh, and they're saying that this is false. So what is this? Apologists for Trump mob have falsely blamed the coup attempt on Antifa. Really? Now, I find it interesting that when Black Lives Matter or Antifa start causing destruction, they try to blame it on right-wing people, right-wing infiltrators. Now, and I know for a fact that there was even an article about it, how a bunch of people, Antifa people, were coming into D.C. at the same time as some of the protesters. I wish I could find that article. But they're saying right-wing figures have spread baseless claims. That's one of their favorite new buzz phrases in media when it regards to people on the right who have assertions. Baseless claims that Antifa was behind Wednesday's violent insurrection at the Capitol. Now, I don't think Antifa was behind the entire thing, but I do believe that there are Antifa people there within the group, and in fact they had some. Well, I wish I lost all this stuff. I didn't keep the links, but all these notifications. Anyway, that there were people there. Antifa's and then listen to this. Oh, thank you, Cindy Rochelle, by the way, for the super chat through YouTube. The one who says, I was there, still 1 block from the Capitol, but trying to check out of hotel at the moment. I can answer some questions soon. Oh, cool. I would love to hear that. Hopefully I'll watch for you here. Oh, you are here. I'm still by the Capitol. Oh, good morning. Also, good morning, Tyler F., James PFP, and I think that's it. Well, I'd love to hear your take, the one who's in the chat right now. Cool. Listen to this. This is a Twitter explanation of what is Antifa. Antifa is a loose affiliation of local activists scattered across the United States and a few other countries. The term Antifa is short for anti-fascist. It is used both by its adherents and its foes. In general, people who identify as Antifa are not known for what they support, but what they oppose. Fascism, nationalism, far-right ideologies, white supremacy, authoritarianism, that's a lie. Antifa loves authoritarianism. Racism, homophobia, and xenophobia. Some Antifa activists also denounce capitalism and government overall. Most Antifa activists are proudly socialist or even proudly communist, and usually have hammer and sickle tattoos. Often do. Often, what do they say? Some Antifa activists also denounce capitalism. Well, some Antifa activists also have hammer and sickle tattoos. My God. Anyway, pro-Trump mobs. Oh, fact checkers say images being shared online show links to far-right movement. Now, here's the guy. They're saying this guy is a QAnon believer, was a part of the mob that stormed the Capitol. This guy has been at a lot of left-wing protests, too. I don't know exactly where he's from. But some people are saying this is not a Trump supporter. This is Eric Trump who tweeted this. This is not a Trump supporter. This is a stage Antifa attack. Now, that may be incorrect as far as the entire thing, but let's see. Despite what Eric Trump may think, this is a Trump supporter. He's been profiled over and over again. He goes to Trump rallies constantly. He's known as QAnon shaman. Now, so maybe I don't know who that guy is. Now, here's one. Twitter woman shot inside the U.S. Capitol by law enforcement has died, according to multiple media outlets, citing the police. A mob stormed the Capitol building on Wednesday afternoon. I wonder if they called the group that was occupied Nancy Pelosi's office a while back, if they called them a mob. Good morning, Noble. How you doing? Oh, it's Brutus. Change your name again and icon to lay low. Okay, well, that's cool. Try not to call you Brutus. The one who, are you here? Or are you still trying to check out of your hotel? I'm just curious. I'd love to hear your take on things where you were. Let's see. I missed something here. Pretty much sure. Dear friend, I'm out of here. You are all good people who care, but I can't continue hoping good will win. We are ruled by evil and nobody will fight it. Take care. Oh, D.I. Freighter Watcher, I understand. I completely understand your frustration. I'm just I at this point I just gotta move on, and I'm still pissed off, but I kind of gotta go, okay, what can we do next? And you know, sometimes getting beyond the grief quickly, and some people can, some people can't. I'm not saying that, but sometimes you just got to get beyond it and figure out what's next. For example, I know in my case, I really just want to start working on getting my local state representative and our state senator, my state senator is a Republican, but the local state representative is just this left-wing nutbag. And how this person got elected in my House district in the state really just makes me want to make sure that the next time that they're elected, this person is not elected. And I don't know if that means finding someone to support or maybe even running for state legislature myself. And I don't know how that would work. Although I do know a lot of people in my area because I used to coach youth sports in the area. And I used to run the youth football program in my city. And so I know lots of people through that. And so I don't know how many people you need to get to vote for you to do that. But who knows? Who knows? But sometimes, especially if you're in one of these swing states, getting the right people elected and getting your voting systems back to make sense. You know, I was looking at a list the other day. Like, it was a list of like 70 countries. And a lot of them were in Europe and what all over. 70 countries, right? And the United States was on the list. And of those countries, guess how many required an ID to vote in their country? And a lot of these, I mean, and these were just first world countries. They were like countries in the Middle East, countries all over the place. Out of the 70 countries they had listed, how many do you think required an ID to vote? And this is a list that included the United States. How many out of 70? Put a number in the chat and then I'll see how close you are. So long as we have local governments that can tell the feds to stuff it, we still have ways of being left alone. Yeah, I hope so. That's what I'm saying. I think, you know, maybe perhaps fixing your local governments, your guess is all 70, requiring an ID to vote. 15, Gunfox says, out of 70 countries, and granted, they're mostly first world, but out of the 70, 50 to 60, a couple 69s, 2 from Small Man. Hello, Small Man, by the way. I'd say 50. Well, okay, now I know a lot of people have answered, and there's a little bit of lag here, but the correct answer is 69. 69 of the 70 countries. The only country that does not require you to have an ID to vote throughout the country was the United States. All of them except for us. Yep. All of them except for us. Even Canada, says Katie. And the reason is because you just don't, for whatever reason, it's having an ID to vote.
That's racist!
And I haven't figured out why. You know, I mean, everyone has an ID in this country. You can't function with an ID without an ID in this country. And also, fixing our paper ballot system. You know, I don't care if they use machines to count ballots, but the paper backup, which I think a lot of states have gone back to since they had the voting machine fiasco in the early 2000s. But also just, you know, for example, even in the Senate runoff election, which I don't even think I've talked about that. I'm just freaked out about that too, that the Senate's going back to the Democrats are going to have all three houses. I really hope Joe Manchin uses his votes in the Senate to stop some things that need to be stopped. There are a few senators from states that are purple or more reddish that you hope step up and don't let the Senate become a rubber stamp for anything that the House puts through or Joe Biden administration puts through. In fact, there's rumors that perhaps Joe Manchin might leave the Democratic Party, be an independent, and caucus the Republicans. That would be, well, preferable to what's going on now. But anyway, thank you, Maddie, with the 5 spot through Streamlabs, who says, my parents are scared and I'm scared for them. I am more upset for them because they are witnessing much of the same shit they left Cuba to avoid. Yeah, man. It's going to be interesting to see if the Democrats try to go hog wild with their newfound power. I don't think, now I know for a fact that the whole Supreme Court packing thing ain't going to happen. I guarantee you that is not going to happen because there are 4 or 5 Democrat senators who said, yeah, we're not playing that. We're not going to do that because we know what's going to happen. If they try to do that, because the Democrats, at least I hope, have learned that when they drastically change any particular rule, they do it with the idea that there's never going to be another Republican majority again. And then when a Republican majority comes along, Mitch McConnell, then they have carte blanche to do those things under the rules that the Democrats changed. So that's why you have so many Trump judges that have been approved. Now, I always laughed at that whole thing about, they put all these conservative Trump judges in all these places and whatnot. You realize that of the federal judiciary, about, 60% of the judges are still Obama appointees, or not 60, it's about, maybe it's like 50. About half the judges are still Obama appointees because of the last 8 years of all the judges he appointed, and about 30% are Trump. And then there's some still left over from, prior administrations. So yeah, Trump did get a lot of judges in there, and also he was able to, and particularly on the circuit level, they got a lot of judges on the circuit level. So some, like for example, the Ninth Circuit, the California Circuit, that circuit was changed dramatically because of Trump appointees. But I saying that, being scared because the idea that it's going to be like Democrats gone wild. Ew. I shouldn't have used that phrase. Of course, if you're old enough to remember Girls Gone Wild, the stupid commercials on late night TV, then you'd be like, ew, Democrats gone wild. Ew. Anyway, I think there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 Democrat senators who know that some of these things that the more out there Democrats want are not going to fly in their states, and they will no longer be senators the next time they're up for re-election. And the one thing that that politicians, whether they're Democrats or Republicans or independents, absolutely crave, and that is the power of their position. So they want to make sure they get reelected. And so I don't think that they're, there's certain things they're not, but even the things like, I worry about them changing the healthcare system too much, because every time the Democrats get in power, that's the first thing they try to go for. So who knows? I've been rambling this whole time, and I haven't even gotten into the articles today. I mean, there's a few, and most of them are related to what happened yesterday. By the way, thank you again, Maddie. I appreciate appreciate your support always. So we know the identity of the woman shot at the Trump protest. According to a report, the identity of a person who was fatally shot at the United States Capitol was revealed Wednesday evening to be a woman named Ashley Babbitt, the wife of a 14-year veteran of the U.S. Air Force residing, and 14-year veteran of the U.S. Air Force residing in California. Let's see. She was from San Diego. According to a local news station that spoke to her husband. She served 4 tours with the U.S. Air Force and was a high-level security official throughout her time in the service. The report added her husband says she was a strong supporter of President Trump and a great patriot to all who knew her. Just before, literally the day before she shot, she tweeted, "Nothing will stop us. They can try and try and try, but the storm is here and it's descending upon D.C. in less than 24 hours, dark to light." Let's see. The New York Post reported that she took the fatal bullet in the chest during the mayhem inside the Capitol. Video footage captured the gunshot as well as the woman crumbling to the floor. She was apparently shot by Capitol Police. Law enforcement sources told the Post. I think, again, unarmed protester shot at the Capitol. If this were a different group from anywhere from other than the right protesting and they got shot in this situation, that would be the main line that you'd hear from the media. Unarmed protester shot by Capitol Police. But that's not the way it's going to be put here. But I'm going to leave this article if you want to read more about Ashley Babbitt. We're going to keep kind of going through this kind of quick. Great article from Front Page. Democrats were for riots before they were against them. Isn't that the truth? And that's why all these people talking about, well, if this was BLM or Antifa, well, you liked their riots, didn't you? You didn't call them riots. You called them, protest, fiery but peaceful protest. In 2018, the media was writing about glowing stories about the hundreds of Women March members who were engaging in, quote, direct action to disrupt the Senate's Kavanaugh hearings. Hundreds of members from the radical leftist group had invaded the hearings and were arrested. Their travel expenses and bail for the disruptions were covered by the Women's March. Radicals from the march and other leftist group blocked hallways, shouted down Senate members, and draped protest banners from the balconies. Democrats cheered them on. When leftist mob assailed the Supreme Court, pounding on the doors, MSNBC called it an extraordinary moment and praised the crowd, quote, besieging the Supreme Court and confronting senators. If you see anybody from that cabinet, if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and create a crowd. You push back on them. Representative Maxine Waters had urged earlier that year. Later, a Democratic House member told MSNBC they're absolutely going to harass them. In 2020, Black Lives Matter rioters vandalized the Lincoln Memorial and the World War II Memorial, along with statues of Gandhi, General Cashapp, and Andrew Jackson. The racist thugs. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting language. The racist thugs marched through the city, starting fires, including at a historic church, and tried to besiege the White House. Now, remember, that picture I showed you earlier, that was after all this happened, and there was going to be another protest. So they had a precedent for why they would be protecting the monuments with multiple National Guard troops. PDawg, driving away now 2 blocks from Capitol, Antifa had people disguised. I met 2 young girls that went in. Did you? Interesting. Remember Obama bragged about gun control, yet he did absolutely nothing. Yeah, true. So you talked to 2 girls who went in. Tell us more, the one who I'll try to keep up with you here. Democratic House member. Oh, and here, and attempted to besiege the White House. Attempts by federal law enforcement to fight BLM terrorism were falsely denounced as a brutal attack on peaceful protesters and militarism and fascism. Democratic House members took to proposing bills to protect the racist mob from law enforcement. Meanwhile, the BLM mobs besieged the White House and battled Secret Service personnel, allegedly forcing the evacuation of President Trump and his family to the bunker. Remember, they said Trump had to go hide in the bunker. Ha 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 ha. Did you see any of the pictures of the House members being skirted away yesterday? But that's none of my business. This was the new normal, enthusiastically supported by Democrats and the media. A bail fund backed by Senator Kamala Harris and Biden campaign staffers focused on helping rioters and looters get out of prison, along with any other criminals along for the ride. Or DAs would just drop the charges. Mike Schmidt. That was a Freudian slip. Mike Schmidt in Portland come to mind. Let's see. Violent protests, including those targeting public officials and legislative bodies, have been championed and normalized by Democrats and their media for almost 4 years. That included the harassment of officials, property destruction, and assaulting law enforcement. Now, as Democrats expect to take power, they suddenly decided that rioting is bad. Before the Save America protests even began, the same Washington, D.C. authorities who had championed and protected the Black Lives Matter riots, in fact, named a plaza and a street after them, prepared for a crackdown. We want the military. We want troops from out of state, out of Washington, D.C., Mayor Browser had ranted when BLM was out of the we want the military, we want the troops from out of state, out of Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Browser had ranted when BLM was attacking national memorials and the White House. We will not allow people to incite violence, intimidate our residents, or cause destruction in our city, Browser now insisted, demanding that the National Guard come out and stop the protests. Hello, Willie, how you doing? Unless they're Democrats, she failed to mention. I think you get the point. This article is just a lot of the hypocrisy of what happened. But let's see. After a massive peaceful rally by Save America protesters who had been addressed by President Trump, a smaller group marched on Congress. The MPD, however, reacted very differently than it had to previous Black Lives Matter and 4 years of leftist rallies. In the resulting confrontation, a number of fringe elements, neo-Nazi groypers, Boogaloo Boys, and leftist libertarian anarchist group that collaborates with Antifa and Black Lives Matter took the opportunity to cause damage and stage photo ops for the media. Unfortunately, some legitimate conservative protesters who had entered the building were caught in the violence. But the media stars of the confrontation were not conservatives and were anti-Trump. One photo showed Nick Fuentes, the alt-right groyper leader whose anti-Semitic group had previously shut down a Turning Point USA event by booing Donald Trump Jr. off the stage, and Tim Baked Alaska Giannette, a former Black Lives Matter supporter and BuzzFeed employee who has a history of going back and forth between the alt-right and the left. Another appeared to show Matthew Heimbach, formerly with the National Socialist Movement, an alleged neo-Nazi leader who had previously argued in court that his actions were President Trump's fault and Trump should be held legally liable. Much as in Charlottesville, marginal figures who were hostile to President Trump, to Republicans and to conservatives, had taken center stage at the behest of the media. Yeah, they say they had these pictures of all these people. Well, they kind of posed for these pictures. Thank you, Selective Boy. I don't, if anyone said this, but folks who hate nationalism are the same folks who take it for granted at their convenience. Yeah, they kind of, they're, so a lot of people hear the word nationalism and they automatically think separatism, white nationalism, shit like that. And I think when President Trump uses that term, or when in relation to the President Trump's policies, I think of it more of like the world is an airplane that we're all flying in, and when the airplane has a problem and the masks drop down, America is going to put their mask on to make sure that we're well first before we go out and try to help anybody else. Okay, so that's kind of what's that called? That's called America First. We want to get our shit together and make sure our people are good. And the more we get our own people good, then our ability to help others is that's secondary. Then we can worry about everybody else. And I don't have a problem with that's the kind of nationalism that I think Trump embodies. Okay, let's fix our own place first. And I don't have a problem with that. But unfortunately, nationalism also is associated with that funny mustache guy from the 40s, 30s, and 40s, and nationalism can be considered a what's a good word for this? A hue related philosophy, as in melanin or lack of melanin. But that's not the nationalism that most people talk about, or that's not the nationalism that Trump represents. It's not about the nationalism that Trump represents means if you're an American, whether you are an American of lack of hue or extra hue, or you came from somewhere else and became nationalized and chose this country to be your own, and you took that oath because now you're a citizen. That's all Americans. Every American should be benefiting from Trump's sort of nationalism. Okay, PDawg, sad to see that many have turned their backs on the oaths of office and laws they swore to uphold. Yeah, I agree. A lot of them have. By the way, thank you, Fight for Your Rights. Oh wait, I did that one. By the way, thank you again, Select a Boy.
Your life makes me sad.
Yeah, boy. All right, there you go. And also, Fight for Your Rights. Thank you for the $5 through YouTube Super Chat. Who says, my last 5 bones till tomorrow. Thank you for your hard work in the morning, Big Dog. Well, thank you so much. Now, don't put yourself in jeopardy. I appreciate the Super Chats. I just hope you're not putting yourself in jeopardy by saying your last 5 bones till tomorrow. But I do greatly appreciate your generosity. More on this article. Much as in Charlottesville, marginal figures who were hostile to President Trump and Republicans and to conservatives taking center stage at the behest of the media. The purpose of the entire circus was to provide a propaganda opportunity for the left. The outrage over the protest is a farce coming from a political movement that advocated terrorizing Republican elected officials. Yeah, you remember that? The shit they were doing? And that aided invasions of Congress and that supported Black Lives Matter riots, which, aside from terrorizing D.C., also wrecked much of the country. Why is broken glass at Capitol Hill so much more precious than the broken glass that ended the dreams of store owners in Kenosha, Wisconsin? Where was all the outrage, the tears wept for our country when Black Lives Matter people were prying open shops around the country, looting them and assaulting their owners on a scale so vast it racked up $2 billion in damages? Please show me where it says protesters are supposed to be. Now, Chris Cuomo, remember when Chris Cuomo said this? Please show me where it says protesters are supposed to be polite and peaceful. He barked while his news network showed rioting and looting in New York. Riots are obviously wrong, except that Democrats and the media decided that wasn't true. Martin Luther King's infamous quote, "A riot is the language of the unheard," popped up in Time, USA Today, and on CNN. Violence was critical to the success of the 1960s civil rights movement, a Washington Post op-ed argued. AP urged reporters to use this uprising. They urged reporters to use the term uprising instead of riot to describe the violence, while suggesting that protests can be violent and that reporting should not focus on the property destruction, but instead the underlying grievance. Oh my, how far we have slipped from that paradigm. Anyway, you can read the rest with yourself. It'll be in the links. I'm going to move on. This is a Bob McManus from the New York Post. Political violence must be denounced by the right and the left. I'm just going to leave this there. I'm not going to go into that one. We'll skip it. What else? Trump addresses the nation following violence in D.C. in a video statement. Former White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah also released a statement. So Donald Trump released a video statement on Wednesday that addressed the violence that broke out on Capitol Hill following the rally earlier in the day. By the way, so he put this on Twitter too. I know, Maddie, you put this in my mentions, where he denounced violence, told people to go home, and Twitter suspended him for 12 hours. Maybe they didn't want to even give a hint of the fact that he had a message for people not to do what they were doing. And it's pretty scary. Anyway, Trump said, I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everybody knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to have respect. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace, so go home. We love you. You are very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel, but go home and go home in peace. The video is severely restricted by Twitter over Trump's claim that the election was stolen, so they censored it, which has not been substantiated in court or by government officials. Who wrote this? This is the Daily Wire. Sometimes they use strange language, but anyway, or by government officials. Former Attorney General William Barr, a favorite among the president's base, previously stated that federal investigators had not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election. White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah also released a statement on Twitter writing, Dear MAGA, I am one of you. Before I worked for Donald Trump, I worked for Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, and the Freedom Caucus. I marched in the 2010 Tea Party rallies. I championed with Donald Trump and voted for him. But I need you to hear me. Election was not stolen. We lost. Well, I understand her point here. There were cases of fraud that should be investigated, but the legitimate margins of victory for Biden are far too wide to change the outcome. You need to know that. I'm proud of many policy accomplishments the Trump administration had, but we must accept these results. Farah continued, it's time to regroup, organize, campaign for our political leaders we believe in, and let our democracy work. It is not and never will be the time for violence. If you believe in America first, believe in our Constitution, the rule of law, and first principles. So, those messages need to be out there. There you go. Moving on. Now, a pipe bomb was found at the Republican National Committee headquarters. Oh, yay. A pipe bomb was reportedly found and successfully detonated by a bomb squad at the Republican National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. The New York Times reports from a developing report by the Times states that both the RNC and Democratic National Committee headquarters were evacuated after a pipe bomb was found at the RNC office. Likewise, a suspicious package was discovered at the DNC offices as well. Let's see, anything else that I can tell you about that based on this article? Not really. So, wow. Okay. Fuck her. We don't have to accept any results. No, we don't. You know what? You can choose to or choose not to. The only thing that I agree with her 100% that I don't want to resort to the violence of the left. I just don't want to because unfortunately it's spun too easy by our media, and we have too much media. It's funny. I talked to some guys I coach with, and they were talking about this, and you would think that they had never heard of any of the allegations in some of these states. Like they just had no clue that that there were even hearings in some states going over some of the evidence of shenanigans, and it's just amazing to me. By the way, Aram on 777, nice to see you in the chat. I appreciate you being here. All right, so yeah, pipe bomb at the DNC. DC mayor told federal law enforcement to stand down day before violent U.S. Capitol riot. Oh, great. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser told federal law enforcement to stand down just one day before a mob. Again, this language, why is right-wing media using the term mob? Maybe because, in a way, it's appropriate. It's just that it's never used with left-wing mobs. Although I suppose the Federalists would. Anyway, after a mob of Trump supporters breached the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday, smashing windows, entering the chambers, and forcing lawmakers and congressional staff inside to lock down. Now, the other part of this, I got to tell you, feel free to disagree, but I don't think the freaking the breaching of the Capitol building, I just don't think that was a smart idea. Some people have different opinions. I mean, I know it's what the left would do. I personally don't believe that, but I know some people completely support it and cheered it in some ways. I mean, there were some funny things about it, like them sitting in the the Senate chamber chair, where the Senate leader sits. I thought that picture was hilarious. That person's probably going to get arrested, but but the idea that they call them a mob is cracking me up. To be clear, the District of Columbia is not requesting other federal law enforcement personnel and it discourages any additional deployment without immediate notification to and consultation with the MPD, that's Metro PD, if such plans are underway. Bowser wrote in a letter to acting U.S. Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen and acting Secretary of Defense Chris Miller and Secretary of the Army Ryan D. McCarthy. Now, what's interesting about that is also during this, there was a request for National Guard help once these actions started being taken. And at first, the National Guard said no. Now, granted, usually any National Guard troop moving within Washington, D.C. requires an okay from the White House. And eventually Pence allowed that to happen. But it's interesting that they, at first, they said no. So, and I don't know if, look, the other part of it is none of the people in these breaches were armed. I think they all followed the rules just so as not to, be arrested or charged more or whatever. And it was interesting because when I first heard about the shooting of the woman of Ashley, what's her name? Ashley Barrett. The on Twitter they were saying that there was a shootout. And I'm like, wait, a shootout? But and eventually it was found that no, none of the people that in the breach had weapons, and that she was just shot. She's an unarmed protester shot by Capitol Police. Let's see if we ever see that headline. Steve, those insurrections are so dumb, right? I'm not saying that. But hello, Steve. Welcome to the show. Babbitt. Thank you. Ashley Babbitt. I don't know why I can't remember her name. But anyway, so that'll be in the links after the show. Here's another thing. Muriel Bowser now, though, she's extended a public emergency in D.C. for 15 days. Oh, my gosh. Is this a relic of what we do with COVID lockdowns? I don't know. 15 days. I don't know why. Oh, probably because the inauguration's coming up. That's why. Democrat Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has extended a citywide public emergency that she announced on Wednesday for 15 days. Today's First Amendment protest turned violent. A press release said many persons came to the district armed and for the purpose of it. Okay, armed. I don't know how many people came armed. I don't have any reports of that, but she's saying many persons came to the district armed and for the purpose of engaging in violence and destruction. I'm curious, What other destruction other than the breach of the Capitol building happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday? Now, I remember there was one Twitter account that was talking about this, and they were talking about the breach, and they showed a police car that was destroyed. But that picture was from a prior protest earlier in the year, armed with false flags. Yeah, more like that hard disk fail. That's funny. Anyway, she says many persons came to the district armed and for the purpose of engaging in violence and destruction have engaged in violence and destruction. She declared a public emergency for 15 days until the day after inauguration. Following violence in the U.S. Capitol Day, she's expected to address the public shortly. She says, okay. Now listen, the guns part here, the only guns that were fired were by Capitol Police. But that there was reports earlier in the day, or during that there was a shootout. No, there wasn't a shootout. That was false, but those reports made it into the media. They fired chemical irritants, bricks, bottles, and guns. Bricks and bottles? Were they throwing bricks and bottles? Please show that evidence too. I haven't heard any of this, but I guess we'll find out if they have some video evidence. I'm sure there's video evidence of people throwing bricks and bottles. Now, I have seen evidence of where people were moving through the streets and the police were were having skirmishes with them, keeping them in their place. But it's always strange when I've seen this, when I saw a video of that, where it was usually a very short skirmishes, and then the person cooperated with the police and walked wherever the police wanted them to go. It wasn't like with some of these where they're throwing bricks and bottles at police all the time. Like remember, a lot of people have been talking about the incident by the church when President Trump did his little Bible thing, which I thought was kind of dumb. But the fact of that matter is that when they 3 times they tried to move that perimeter out for whatever they had planned there, and they were pelted with water bottles and rocks and shit like that. And so then that's when they used gas and moved them out. Now, I don't know whether it was advisable or not. I don't care. 3 times they said they were moving this perimeter, and instead the police were attacked. And in a lot of these cases, in a lot of these cities, if you look at the federal building in Portland, they're throwing all kinds of shit, throwing fireworks, doing all kinds of shit. But I haven't seen any evidence of people throwing bricks and bottles and shooting guns. But she says that in her press release. She said they have breached security of the Capitol and their destructive, riotous behavior. Oh my God. I wonder if she ever described destructive and riotous behavior of any of the other protests in Washington, D.C. over the last 9 months. I bet you if I went through everything she has written and said over the last 9 months, I bet those words haven't been used once. It also has the potential to spread beyond the Capitol. Their motivation is ongoing. Really interesting. So today they sought to disrupt the congressional proceedings related to acceptance of the Electoral College votes. It continued. President Trump continues to fan rage and violence by contending that the presidential election was invalid. Persons are dissatisfied with judicial rulings and the findings of the state boards of elections, and some persons can be expected to continue their violent protests through inauguration. Oh, you mean they're mostly peaceful protests, right? They're mostly peaceful protests, but some violence might break out. That's what she really means. Because of the unrest, Bowser's issued an order extending public emergency declared earlier today for a total of 15 days, according to the release. And then she changed the curfew to 6 o'clock, but I don't think anyone really followed the curfew yesterday, because I know that around 8 o'clock my time, which would be 9 o'clock DC, before I went to bed, I looked at some of the live stream and stuff, and there are still people out in the streets, and no one was really forcing them down for the curfew. But anyway, let's see. A couple articles that'll be here, but I'm not going to go through. Why did the Capitol Police fail to protect the Capitol? Is one of them. And then also Vice President Pence saying this attack on our Capitol will not be tolerated. You know what? And it should not be. Okay? Anytime, whether you agree with the people doing it or not, it's really a bad precedent for this to happen. The fact that Capitol Police did not control the area around the Capitol building while all those senators and representatives were there, regardless of how much I cannot stand those people in that building. I absolutely do not want that building to be able to be breached and possible harm come to those people because of it. And I'm not saying that the MAGA people even intended harm on people, rather than just wanting to shout their dissatisfaction with those shitty people. But can't happen. That should never fucking happen. I gotta just say it never should happen. Anyway, that's Pence's statement. You can read that on your own too. And then finally, Facebook has also banned the Donald Trump video calling for peace following the riots at the Capitol. So I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Even if he used some language talking about the election. Now, this Guy Rosa, who's from Facebook, this is an emergency situation. We are taking appropriate emergency measures, including removing President Trump's video. We removed it because on balance, we believe it contributes rather than diminishes the risk of ongoing violence. No, it does not. Even if he's saying, even though we're disappointed because of this, and this, acknowledging why the protesters are protesting, he's asking them to go home. And the protesters, who are very loyal to Donald Trump, would listen to that message, that he's acknowledging why they're mad, but probably honoring his request that they stop the bullshit. But these fucking social media people and media people are so myopic that they can't understand that by acknowledging what you're mad about, but still asking you to do something else by the person that you're there to support, is a powerful message to tell them to go home. That sounds logical to me. I don't know why it wouldn't be logical to them. No idea. Just drives me nuts that these people think that they can manipulate whatever they want and whatever. Anyway, boy, I have a whole lot of other headlines I wanted to get to, but it's already past my time to end. A couple things. So we know the joint session of Congress, Pence certified Biden's presidential victory. Senate rejects objection to Pennsylvania electoral votes 7-92. Senate rejects objection to Arizona electoral votes 6-93. So still 7 and 6 senators voted to object to those votes. And Trump actually said that we're going to have Trump himself concedes to Biden, we think after Congress certified the 2020 election. Even though I totally disagree with the outcome, he says, why is my phone ringing? No one I need to talk to. Even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. I have always said we would continue our fight to ensure that only legal votes were counted. While this represents the end of the greatest first term of presidential history, it's only the beginning of our fight to make America great again. We're pretty sure that, now they say that we're pretty sure this was a concession statement, but I don't think anyone but Trump knows for sure if it's the real deal or he's trolling. No, he said, we're going to have a peaceful transition, but it doesn't mean that my fight to make America great is over. Foreshadowing another run as president, I don't know. Foreshadowing, whatever he does to do, I don't know, whatever. Other headlines, Cory Bush announces a bill calling for expulsion of GOP lawmakers who supported the election challenges. Bitch! That is in the Constitution that you can do that. And so it's a stupid bill. Anyway, Trump blasted Pence. I don't know. I'm going to end it like that because we can always talk about more stuff tomorrow. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, before you think of doing anything else, hit the like button if you like what we do. And if you duck dog, you know what you can do. Yeah, because we're at 52 people. Oh, wow, a lot of people here. I never even looked at how many people were here. 52 people at the end of the show. That's amazing. And we got up to about 60 at 65 at one point, 66. Holy moly. That's a great thing. So anyway, yeah, so hit the like button if you're so inclined before you do anything else, before you click away. And then I'd appreciate it greatly if you just share the stream out. I know that a lot of you do that already. It really helps because I'm not one of those people that YouTube is interested in promoting, and that's fine. I don't care. I'm more happy to get people by word of mouth, and you guys help me with that greatly. And then also, if you're watching on replay, put a comment in the comment section so they know you're here. Or if you didn't see the beginning, go back and watch the replay and tell me what you think. And finally, all the stuff for donations, that information is all in the description down below. I appreciate people who can do that. And if you can't, just enjoy the show. That's kind of how it works around here. Let me just say some final thank yous again. Circus Zero, Mad Max, Rod Line, Gunfox 61, Tall Person, Cindy Rochelle, Maddie, Select a Boy, and Fight for Your Rights for the donations day. I greatly appreciate that. That's very generous of you all. It's time for me to go though, people, because I have other things in my life I have to do. So thank you. My name is PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Hey, this is PDawgKnight, and thank you for watching today on the PDawgKnight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here.